Good morning. Please join us as we sing together to get started.
Good morning and welcome to worship at First Unitarian Church of Portland. We are a multi-generational community with a mission to nurture the individual spirit and together live into beloved community. We're so glad that you're here in person and also joining us online. I have several announcements to share this morning. Following today's service, there is an all-church Zap the Gap auction party in Buchanan Reception Hall. Yes. Please join us for some fun, games, cake, uke choir, and and a celebration as we wind down the auction. And a quick reminder that auction bidding is open until 6 p.m. today. So we look forward to seeing you for our party today over in the Buchanan Reception Hall. Then at 12:30 in Elliott Chapel and online, for those joining remotely, the board and executive team invite you to a forum on the proposed church budget for the 2023-24 fiscal year. Ballots have been mailed to church members, and this is an opportunity to hear about the thinking behind the budget, the vision for where the church is headed, and learn about budget details. This Tuesday, May 9th, our social justice group, Care and Action for Reproductive Dignity, will host Cassie Purdy, the political director at Planned Parenthood Advocates of Oregon. Cassie will speak about the status of current legislative efforts, including House Bill 2002 and a statewide ballot measure to expand reproductive health care, including abortion and gender-affirming care. She'll also share why it is so important for Oregon to be proactive at this time when gender-based rights and human dignity are under attack nationally. Diverse and Revolutionary UU Multicultural Ministry, or DRUM, is the oldest and largest UU People of Color collective. This Thursday, May 11 at 5 p.m., we are proud to co-sponsor DRUM's virtual public worship entitled Shine On, Beautiful and Resilient People. The service is a festival of Black and brown joy and resilience expressed through original works of music, preaching, and poetry. It is open to everyone and features religious professionals of color from across our Unitarian Universalist Association. Learn how to register at drum.org/event or on our website. And you can find information about all of these announcements on our church website and through our e-news. We have a special announcement this morning from Heather Toran and Ethel Gillette about our transformation team.
Good morning. My name is Heather Toran, and I have attended the First Unitarian Church of Portland with my husband, Eric Foss, and my two children, Jazz, who is 16, and Amber, who is 13, since about 2011. I grew up in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, attending the First Unitarian Church of Philadelphia with my Black father, my white mother, and my younger sister. My parents were very active in that church, serving on many committees and singing weekly with the choir. And I participated in the religious education offerings, including YRUU and regional youth conferences in high school. At that church, my interracial family found a welcoming community where we felt value in belonging. In fact, when I was growing up, some of my family's closest friends were people from First Unitarian in Philadelphia.
Hello, my name is Ethel Gillette. My partner Rich Schur and I joined First Church in 2015, shortly after moving to Portland from Los Angeles. We have found a wonderful spiritual home here. My involvement at the church has been primarily in the choirs and in the social justice program, where my primary focus has been on advancing racial justice. For me, anti-racist and anti-oppression work is spiritual work. My sense of higher purpose demands that I engage in dismantling white supremacy culture. All of these reasons brought me and Heather both to be part of the 8th Principle Exploration Team, whose goal was to promote the adoption of the 8th Principle in our congregation. First, you voted almost unanimously to adopt the 8th Principle 2 years ago, and many of you have been asking, what now? Where do we go from here?
When I consider the younger folks in our congregation and our country, I notice increasing numbers of interracial families, more than ever before. We need to make our church as welcoming for them as my church was for my family growing up in the First Unitarian Church of Philadelphia. If it is our goal to live into the 8th Principle in intentional, active, accountable, and loving ways, then we need a strong transformation team to help us get there. We are here to invite you to consider applying to be a member of the transformation team at First Unitarian Portland. We need your ideas, resources, and energy to transition to a truly inclusive community.
So, are you passionate about social justice and being an effective anti-racist? Are you ready to help lead a transformation of our church inspired by the 8th Principle? If so, we need you. Please consider applying. Information about the transformation team and the application process can be found on the website, on this slide, on the church website, in the e-news, and we have a table with more information available during social hour. Applications are due Friday, May 16th. I'm sorry, 26th. Thank you so much.
Oh, wait a minute. Okay, there we go. Thanks, y'all. So just a reminder that all of our social hour will be over in Buchanan for that great party that we're going to have, and that's where you can see various social justice tables, including the table that they just mentioned for the transformation team. So in just a minute, we're going to greet our neighbors here in the church, and those of you online can use the chat option if that's available to you. So let's say hello. The Davidson family will light our chalice here this morning. We are Unitarian Universalists. We light this chalice in faith, in hope, and in love.
Charlie Chaplin, inspired by Puccini's Tosca, wrote the melody for Smile in his 1936 movie Modern Times. Lyrics were added in 1945 and were based on the themes of the movie. Now, it's easy to read the lyrics of this particular song as the ramblings of some privileged Pollyanna, pretending that sadness and darkness can be defeated simply by ignoring them and putting on a happy face. So instead, we all know that ignoring sadness and darkness isn't healthy. That kind of spiritual procrastination only postpones the work that we need to do to become emotionally whole people. So for me, the lyrics of this song start to redeem themselves when they talk about the necessity to keep on trying. For me, this speaks to the value of hope. Moving forward into uncertainty without hope is not sustainable, and we're all in this for the long haul. So let this song not be a directive to ignore darkness, but rather to be a prayer for hope.
Our call to worship is by Theodore Parker. Be ours a religion which, like sunshine, goes everywhere. Its temple, all space. Its shrine, the good heart. Its creed, all truth. Its ritual, works of love. Its profession of faith, divine living. Will you join with all of us in our next song, number 141, I've Got a New Name. I Call That Church Free by James Luther Adams. I call that church free, which enters into covenant with the ultimate source of existence, that sustains and transforming power not made with human hands. It binds together families and generations, protecting against the idolatry of any human claim to absolute truth or authority. This covenant is the charter and responsibility and joy of worship in the face of death as well as life. I call that church free, which brings individuals into a caring, trusting fellowship that protects and nourishes their integrity and spiritual freedom, that yearns to belong to the Church Universal. It is open to insight and conscience from every source. It bursts through rigid tradition, giving rise to new and living language, to new and broader fellowship. It is a pilgrim church, a servant church, on an adventure of the Spirit. The goal is the prophethood and priesthood of all believers, the one for the liberty of prophesying, the other for the ministry of healing. It aims to find unity in diversity under the promptings of the Spirit that bloweth where it listeth and maketh all things new. And let us join in our doxology.
Our time for all ages this morning is a story that I would like to share with you called Magic, Once Upon a Faraway Land, written and illustrated by Mireya Ortega. Let me tell you about the place I'm from, a far-away land brimming with magic, powerful magic that twists and turns and touches everything around you. It's a place where rain kisses the earth and wild things flourish, and people turn wilderness into harvest. A place where my abuelo turned dirt into a sea of golden pineapples, glimmering under the warm Mexican sun. And my abuelita taught me to string words together to make up stories, where my mama and tia wove single threads of wool into the most beautifully intricate blankets. And my papa transformed sketches into stone buildings, bricks into walls. In my faraway land, I saw tiny seeds grow into shady trees, where beneath I sat and played on hot summer days. I also saw little bugs become plagues, and pleasant rains turn into tropical storms. And my favorite trees turned into lonely stumps. I learned that magic isn't good or bad, it just is. Sometimes it gives, sometimes it takes, sometimes it blossoms, sometimes it wilts, and sometimes it is confusing. The way magic can change things for better or for worse. But even in the darkest moments, the spark of magic shines through, like candles in the ofrendas every day of the dead. My abuelo used to say, there is no harvest without rain, and there is no sadness that magic can't turn into happiness again. even though sometimes it doesn't feel like it. Sometimes magic is hard to find. Sometimes magic takes its time, but it is always there. Like when people's hands touch the earth and plant seeds that become fruit. Like when simple ingredients turn into delicious meals. Like when strangers turn into friends and houses into homes. Like when sounds are woven together into the most beautiful music. Like when jarochas dance. Magic is everywhere. You can feel it in the air, even in a new, faraway land. And you can feel it in your fingertips, like when blank pages become pictures. Thank you for listening to our story. Our children and youth are invited at this time to go to their classes. If you are visiting with a child or youth, we invite you to check in at the welcome desk over in the Buchanan building. And we will carry the light of the chalice with us as we sing them out with our hymn of blessing, "There is More Love Somewhere."
Every Sunday, we share our offering with an organization whose mission aligns with our own. And for this church year, we are centering youth leadership. For the month of May, we share our plate with Youth Voice, Youth Vote, or YV2, a project of Participatory Budgeting Oregon. By sharing real power over real money, participatory budgeting taps the expertise of those most impacted by systemic inequities and engages those most underrepresented in government and decision-making. YV2 is Oregon's first participatory budgeting process, and it enlisted youth to propose and select over $500,000 in COVID-19 relief and recovery projects in State Senate's District 24 and 25. YV2 expands civic leadership and organizing skills while enhancing and rebuilding community, relationships, and mental health outcomes. For those of you here in the sanctuary, our ushers will come through with a basket if you're giving by cash or check. There's also a yellow card in the seat back in front of you with a QR code that you can use if you want to give online. And those joining us on the live stream, you can click the donate button on Boxcast. Thank you for your generosity that sustains the ministry of this church.
Lord, deliver me, 'cause all I seem to do is hurt me, hurt me. Lord, deliver me, 'cause all I seem to do is hurt me, hurt me, yeah, yeah. And Lord, deliver me, 'cause all I seem to do is hurt me, hurt me, yeah, Lord, deliver me, 'cause all I seem to do is hurt me, hurt me, yeah, oh yeah.
We make space each week in our service to name our community concerns. Pastoral support happens through our ministers and our lay ministers. If you're here in person, you can light a candle in one of the side galleries and leave a note with your intention for prayer there. And you can also send an intention for prayer to prayer@firstunitarianportland.org. Longtime member Rosie Daly suddenly and unexpectedly passed away at home last Monday, May 1st. Daughters Catherine and Yvette were grieving the recent death of their father, Donald, just 6 weeks ago. So Rosie's death is an especially hard blow at this time. Rosie did childcare at the church for many years when their children were young. She was grateful to the support of this church community when her daughter, Morgan, died. This church was near to Rosie's heart. We hold Catherine, Yvette, and all of Rosie's loved ones at this difficult time of loss. Marian Gallagher notified us that her mom, Laura Good, died on January 4th after 4 months in hospice care. Laura had been a congregant at the church since 1986. At this time, we hold Laura's daughter, Marian, and all her family and loved ones. Kim Heron is excited to announce that her eldest son, Keegan Heron, and his girlfriend, Critty Whitmore, welcomed their son, Oscar Avon McLean Heron, into the world on April 27th in Quito, Ecuador. Keegan and his younger sibling, Cam, participated in our learning community here at First Unitarian. And Kim reports that everyone is doing fine, and Keegan, Critty, and Oscar will be moving to Durham, North Carolina in August. And Kim will get to visit them in Quito later this month before their move. So congratulations to the whole family. Will you join me now in a spirit of prayer? And let's begin by taking a few breaths of awareness. Spirit of love and compassion, we gather today with gratitude for this community of care. We offer our presence and love for those who carry sorrows, both spoken and unspoken. May all who are grieving at this time know that your sadness is a measure of love for who and what you have lost. May your hearts be comforted in the knowledge that your love and your grief is sacred. You are not alone. Spirit of joy and renewal, our hearts also swell with the miracles and mysteries of the cycles of life. We rejoice in the celebration of new life born into this world. We offer our prayers that each new being may know joy, meaning, dignity, and connection. Spirit of belonging, may this community be a place of healing and generosity, a place of welcome where we recognize our humanity in each person who enters, a place of humility where we understand that our own liberation is dependent on the liberation of all. May we each have the courage and the self-care to speak, to act toward a just world where all are respected and thrive. And Spirit of transformation, may we be present to the ever-changing nature of life. May we greet each new day with love and openness. May we give our hearts space to grow, to revel in the great mysteries, to sing and dance with the energies of change and creation, and to grieve our losses fully, and to be whole. May it be so. Amen. Let's take a few moments for silent meditation.
Once upon a time, a pilgrim set out on a long journey in search of peace, in search of joy, and in search of love. The pilgrim walked for miles and miles, and a long, long time passed. Gradually, the young, lively steps became slower and more labored. The pilgrim's journey passed through landscapes that were not always happy ones, through war and sickness, through quarrels and separations and rejections. A land where it seemed the more people possessed, the more warlike they became, the more they had to defend, and the more they needed to attack each other. Longing for peace, they prepared for war. Longing for love, they surrounded themselves with walls of distrust and barriers of fear. Longing for life, they were moving onward towards death. But one morning, the pilgrim came upon a little cottage, and something about that cottage attracted the pilgrim. It was as if it was lit up from the inside. Full of curiosity, the pilgrim ventured inside. And inside that cottage, there was a little shop. And behind the counter stood a shopkeeper. It was hard to guess their age or really anything about them. There was an air of timelessness about that space. "What would you like?" asked the shopkeeper. "What do you stock here?" asked the pilgrim. "Oh, we have all the things that you most long for," replied the shopkeeper. "Just tell me what you desire." The pilgrim hardly knew where to begin. So many desires came rushing forth. "I want peace in my own family, in my native land, in the whole world. I want to make something good of my life. I want those who are sick to be well again, and those who are lonely to find friends. I want those who are hungry to have enough to eat. I want every child born on this planet today to have a chance to be educated. I want everyone on earth to live with freedom. I want this whole world to be a kingdom really, of love." There was a pause while the pilgrim continued to review his shopping list. Gently, the shopkeeper broke in. "I'm sorry, I should have explained. We don't supply the fruits here. We only supply the seeds." You may have heard this legend in one form or another. Today's retelling comes from Margaret Silf's wisdom stories from around the world, slightly adapted. It is deeply relevant to us today who live in a society where we are barraged with messages that imply that we can purchase everything that is of consequence or that will offer us happiness and a better life, and that without these acquisitions, we have little to offer. Lots of toys will prove that we love our children, but what they really need is our time. Lots of weapons will engender peaceful relations with our neighbors, but investing in violence breeds more violence. Lots of acreage will show just how much we care for land. But it is this notion that any of us could ever own the land, the seas, or the sky that is destroying our earth. We have been taught by society to look outside of ourselves to find something, a quick fix to solve big problems. But these challenges have arisen from years of personal and collective decisions to neglect what matters most and to spend time on attachments that ultimately separate us from one another and our aims. Only time spent in authentic relationship building and performing deeds that are congruent with our intentions will nourish what we have learned dutifully to ignore. There are two questions that must be asked and answered on the journey. Whose am I? Or to whom do I belong? Or with whom am I in relationship? Or who do I serve? And two, what am I called to do? What is my purpose? What difference can I make? Kierkegaard once wrote that every human being comes to earth with sealed orders. Our task is not to lead lives of every purpose. Could that pilgrim really water every seed he longed for? Rather, our task is to discover our particular call or our congregation's call. Frederick Buechner describes a call as the place where our deep longing, our deep need, or our bliss even, meets the world's deep hunger and need. The problem is that we have forgotten how to pay attention to what makes us unique as individuals, as a faith rooted here in Portland, and how to use our inherent mixture of talent and longing, especially in a world where the parameters are constantly shifting. Change is our constant companion. Changes we seek and changes we'd never wish for in a million years. If we can embrace that there is always a threshold of change before us, and we don't exactly know when we will cross it, we may be able to be more present to the gifts that are held by the time we are experiencing now. Now, this doesn't mean accepting all changes wholesale. We are called to be co-creators with change, and at times, we are called to resist. The story of that pilgrim reminds us that it is in opening ourselves up to change, to the journey, that we may discover the greatest insights and wisdom. Our sojourner travels for miles and miles, and maybe even years, to find what they are looking for: peace, joy, and love. And we Unitarian Universalists uphold that the stories of our lives are like sacred texts, and so he is learning from all of the human experiences he witnesses on his journey and storing them up as a spiritual treasure. As a stranger moving through territories, our pilgrim observes what they probably could have witnessed back home: the way that people's collective actions or inactions lead them away from or toward a path of peace, joy, and love. My guess is the people are not unlike the people the pilgrim already knew before he left. But that shift of landscape, the change in orientation from citizen or resident to foreigner or stranger, changes everything about how they understand what is unfolding before them. the lengthy experience of an embodied spiritual practice and witnessing to the breadth of suffering in the world, the seeker's list of what they are searching for grows even longer. When they finally arrive at the place of insight, a house lit from within, they can't wait to bring back the full fruits or the antidotes to all that has ailed their people back home, the folks to whom they remember they belong. But they are only given the seeds. They will now need to return with those seeds and tend the bushes and the vines, the gardens and the trees that will flower and bear fruit. At the start of the journey, though, they were looking for peace in general. They didn't understand what was involved, but by the end of the journey, they can articulate peace must occur in my family, in my native land, and in the whole world. You see, they are not the same person they were at the beginning of that journey, and they realize that all of those places of peace are interconnected, but they have one more step to go for peace, and all of the seeds begin within. It starts with a seed in their own heart, and then through actions that are congruent with that intention, it can spread forth. The house lit up from within becomes the source of this knowledge, and the pilgrim leaves carrying the seeds or the light of peace, joy, and love within them, and ready to till and plant and tend to it back home. A pilgrimage is ultimately a metaphor for our lives, whether we lead a long life or a shorter one. The Camino de Santiago is a nearly 500-mile journey through France, Spain, and Portugal. There is another famous pilgrimage that people undertake 30 miles around Mount Kailash in Tibet. Or there is even a very short offering of a journey through the labyrinth right in one of our courtyards. There are twists and turns on all of these journeys, whether they be short or long. There is that experience of disorientation as you round a corner. These turn us into strangers on a path that at first seemed familiar and allow us, like the pilgrim, to discover new truths. Moving through a divorce or a disease or a death might be one of those disorienting turns, or positive ones that are turning, such as accepting a new job or becoming a parent or finding a religion could be a new disorienting turn. And actually, some of these might both be positive and negative experiences for us. All of us around the world and here in the United States have been on a collective journey of turning and disorientation and reorientation as we have moved through the pandemic's twists and turns. And just this week, the World Health Organization has declared the pandemic over, even as I receive telephone calls from members who have been diagnosed this week. The pandemic has moved us through a pathway that has involved loss and learning, joy and new insight. We have had to say goodbye to beloveds. We have also welcomed new little ones on the earth. We have even seen that when we don't travel so much, our footprint on the earth is much lighter. we have learned both to be safer and who never experienced safety in our society in the first place. We have returned and are returning to schools, workplaces, public spaces, and our house of worship, a different people, even as we are showing up back home for many of us. The miles have been short, but the distance and all we have witnessed has been long. For some of us, the journey actually has included a distance of over 3,000 miles, and I know I'm not the only one who moved somewhere on the tail end of the pandemic. The pandemic has moved us to new places in the heart and sometimes with accompanying movement in the physical world. Let us embrace how we have changed and the insights that we now carry with us. And let us share it with one another as we collectively discern our path forward in 2023 and beyond. In some ways, this place that we are all now gathered together in person and online is also a house lit up from within. Here we discern our calling as human beings to break down the attachments and divisions in our individual and our collective lives that separate us from an all-encompassing love. As Mahatma Gandhi puts it, here is the place that we find courage to become the change we seek in the world, to find and name the seeds that we want to nourish. It is a place where we exchange those seeds and saplings and sometimes fruits of our passions and our purpose. And it is a place that we come to be inspired by others who are lit up from within. When our youth group, a group of lay leaders, are vulnerable and share honestly from their hearts, as they did with us last week, then all of us depart with a knowing in our hearts that sharing our stories can move people and make a difference. When our lay ministers brought the light of our caring out into the world by calling every member in our congregation who had a working number more than once, and I've heard this story from multiple people, they reminded everyone on the end of the line that you matter, that you were missed, and that you are cared for by this community. And when folks hung up, they testified to me they possessed a seed, knowing that they are not alone. This light is not limited to one of our houses of worship, for we are interconnected with Unitarian Universalists around the country and around the globe, as well as with our partners in the wider community. That was clear when we collectively mobilized 2 million voters concentrating on underrepresented communities during the election last fall. In our community, Kirsten Lee stood up in this pulpit and shared a seed of her vision and her passion about all of us participating in democracy, and that seed grew and grew until it sprouted in all of our hearts, leading to 10,000 letters and well over 3,000 telephone calls to get out the vote. Today, we are launching an opportunity to tend a seed that is sprouting across our country and our congregation. Paula Cole-Jones, a lay leader from All Souls Unitarian in Washington, D.C., had a seed in her heart about Unitarian Universalists committing to a lifelong practice of dismantling racism and other oppressions and building multiracial, multicultural, multi-generational, beloved community. This has taken the form of our 8th principle. And yes, you voted on it 2 years ago, and hundreds of Unitarian Universalists are voting in the 8th principle. And today, some of you will go online and apply for the transformation team to help facilitate a journey for all of us to nurture and grow our ability to lead in a liberating faith. Remember, as Reverend Kimberly Quinn Johnson shared at my installation ceremony 3 weeks ago, part of our calling is to leap into the uncertainty of change together, especially the changes that we long for. If we are doing it right, she said, we will not always succeed. That is part of the risk. But if we don't risk who we are now for the sake of what we can become, we will never move forward on the path towards liberation, towards love, towards peace, or towards joy. And she said, we will succeed some of the time, and that is worth it. In fact, part of our individual and collective call is to plant and tend seeds of repair and creativity to heal and to begin anew for the times when we have done harm with our past or present actions, or the times that we have fallen short of our goals. And I hope that all of you will join the community conversations beginning on May 21st, right after the service, with 7 other opportunities between the 21st of May and June 11th, 4 in person and 4 on Zoom. Because there we will be talking about the seeds that we want to continue and nurture, the seeds of change that we want to plant for our collective future. Here is the place we come to ask, whose am I and who am I? Or who do we belong to and who are we becoming? Maria Ortega, the author of Our Time for All Ages, reminds us that journey through life, especially a reflective religious life, can lead to magic. She writes, sometimes magic takes time, but it's always there. Like when people's hands touch the earth and plant seeds that become fruit. Maria Ortega isn't speaking about the supernatural, just the cycles of nature and humanity which teach us time and again. Within each one of us are the seeds of love and healing and wholeness, and collectively we can co-create places where we encounter beauty and joy and peace. And this happens when we remember that those seeds were always there in our heart from day one. And we just need to remind one another of the light we carry within that will grow those seeds into a beautiful garden of wholeness and repair, a glimpse of Eden, or, as the Universalists remind us, our calling to create the kingdom of heaven on earth. May it be so, friends, and amen. and now in our going. May the light of love bless us and keep us. May it shine down upon us. May it radiate out from within us. May it make all of us peace builders and gardeners of the Spirit. For this is the day that you and I are given. So let us rejoice in it and be glad. Go in peace. Practice love. Amen.